outdoor playground is what they call it for in the wintertime here for the snowmobiling. There's cross-country skiing, anything you can imagine. We're also going to be seeing the Revelstoke Railway Museum. We'll be seeing the old caboose. And we'll also see the snowplow. So the snowplow that they use in the winter months, because this is a big reason why we do not run during the winter time, as they get such heavy snowfalls here, and it'll be quite dangerous. So the snowfall can reach above the snowplow that we will be seeing. Back quite a few years ago, I believe it would have been 2016 or 2017, my sister she came out for one of our aunts had passed away, and she came out and was driving back, and I was taking the train. So she lives in Alberta, and she's got 2 little girls, so they were passing that, and then I had told one of my train managers, it was Peter at the time, and I said, oh, my sister, this happened, and she's driving back now with my 2 little nieces. He said, and I said, oh, and he's like, I'll get the whole train to wave. And so we had it set up where everybody was waving off the side of the train, had flags going. I threw 2 bears to them. My sister, my little niece, Sophia, I think she was only about 2, and Dahlia would have been 4. So it was such a neat experience. So they were standing outside the railway. It always makes me think of that. So yeah, it was really neat.
Have a look here on the left-hand side as the trees clear. This is evidence of avalanche activity here in Rogers Pass. So remember earlier, Naomi told you that this area receives between 40 and 60 feet of snow in the wintertime. And this is now Rogers Pass that we're entering into, an area famous or notorious for avalanche activity. You can see they've constructed avalanche sheds over that portion of the highway, and we will also travel under avalanche sheds on our side of the canyon here. And you can see all the debris and tree trunks falling into the river here due to the avalanches that come down. The thing about an avalanche is that it always takes the path of least resistance, which is usually where another avalanche has already cleared out all the trees and rocks and plants. This wooden structure on Earth. But wood burns, so a little bit dangerous, so they rebuilt it in 1893. So this is the Beaver Valley on our right, and this is Mount Tupper with Mount Tupper Falls on the left. So as soon as you get your photo on the right, turn around and get it on the left. Mount Tupper Falls is absolutely gorgeous, and we don't very often get to see the top of Mount Tupper there on the left-hand side. So yeah, 1885 the first one was built, 1893 it was replaced by a steel bridge. But the reason they constructed it a third time in 1927 was that because the locomotives that they were starting to introduce were a lot heavier than the ones they were using in the 1800s. More photos of opportunities to take photos of it on our left. But when we do see it again, I want you to look in the distance and see if you can see any mountains with snow-capped peaks. I can see that they're back over our left shoulders. So that is the northern part of Kinbasket Lake. That's actually our first view of the Rockies. Exactly, yeah, those are the Rocky Mountains, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to be leaving the Selkirk mountain range now and heading into the Rocky Mountain Trench, which is a massive valley that separates the Rockies from the Columbia Mountains. But that's just
was built in 2007 to help alleviate about 140 accidents that were happening annually here through this area. It stretched of about 26 kilometers in and out of Golden, which we just passed by. I remember even as a kid when we traveled through here, and also just to mention, I just had somebody asking so a little bit more about that rock flower. So why that beautiful color gives it that turquoise illusion. And that has to do with that rock flower that is starts breaking down and flows with the river as a glacier-fed lake or a river. So when the sun shines upon it, it has a spectrum of that turquoise color. And when you look at it, it looks a little bit cloudy. So that's when you know it's rock flower that is present. Because many of the lakes that we do see here and find in the Rockies have that beautiful color. But when you look at it, it's very clear. It doesn't have that cloudy look to it. So that's when you know it's not a glacier-fed lake. And that rock flower name is if you were to sift out that cloudiness in the water, you could dry it and it would give, and it's that baking flour. Yeah, so that's why they gave it that name, rock flower.
You see how flat this? The glacier gonna cut a piece of the earth out. The avalanche come out.
And the Mountie. All right. Well, has anybody ever seen the black
Look
bear?
at that.
Yes. Okay. Has anybody seen a grizzly? No. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Oh, we got some raptors. Rafters, sorry. Not raptors. Oh. Yeah, well, this is the summer months, so this is the best time for them to be going. Is anybody going to be rafting? Yes? Wonderful. Oh, scared look on your face. You'll be okay. I whitewater rafted down Jaws of Death Gorge long ago. Yeah, it was fun. They did, yeah. It is. Yes, you will survive. You'll have a great time.
And of course he said, well, I'm very honored that you named the town after me, but I very politely declined. So they didn't get a cent out of Cyrus Westfield, but the town is still called Field to this day. We tend to see a lot of black bears around here, so keep your eyes peeled for some bears. We see some elk as well. This is now the Yoho Valley on the left-hand side. And we've entered into the second of 3 national parks that we're going to travel through today. And this is the Yoho National Park. Now that sounds like a very fun word to say. And it's from the Stoney First Nations. The First Nations, in their language, the word Yoho is an exclamation of awe and wonder. So it's just like in English, if we were to say, wow. So I urge you at any point during our trip through the Yoho National Park, if you feel so inclined to utter the word wow, I want you to stop yourself and say, Yoho instead. Exactly. Also, please take note of how close against the river we are, because it's from the town of Field. The next 10 miles or 16 kilometers, we're actually going to climb 1,050 feet. And then just before you know it, in the blink of an eye, you're going to look down into the valley in the distance below, and you're going to see the Kicking Horse River off in the distance. So just take note of how close next to us the Kicking Horse River is at the moment. The next highlight is going to be us traveling through the spiral tunnels, one of the greatest feats of engineering in Canadian history. And that is how we are going to gain all that elevation in the next 10 miles, by making our way through those corkscrew-shaped tunnels. But I'll start to explain the details of that to you very shortly. And what we're going to do as we make our way through the spiral tunnels, we need to understand why they exist in the first place and the problem that they were constructed to solve. So the problem was that of the big hill. So I told you earlier that Canadian Pacific Railway was struggling to meet a deadline on which they were to complete their railway line, and they were running out of money as well. And horse and buggy, and then in the town of Field they would reattach with a new set of dining cars, and they would load all the passengers back on the train, and then they would make their way. Now, this is a very clunky and disorganized way to operate on a railway line, but it was that or risk all of these people's lives along that really dangerous stretch of track. And now the third, and possibly the most ludicrous of all the contingencies that were implemented by the Canadian Pacific Railway, was that it was a set of 3 runaway or spur lines. Now, when you think of a spur line, what I want you to imagine is when you're going on the highway and you see those gravel pullouts for the trucks. The left-hand side to sort of peer up over on the right-hand side, because I'm going to show you the tracks that we came in on prior to going into the tunnel. Gorgeous views of the Yoho Valley on the right-hand side. No, I don't. I've seen it hundreds of times. All right, in about 5 seconds, I want you to look down here. Just by this the yellow rope, the yellow cover on the, look down where I'm standing in 3, 2, 1. Those are the same railway tracks that we came in on. So now you can understand, now does it make more sense now what we did? We went in, twisted around, came out, and now we're perpendicular to where we went in. So a couple more things are going to happen now between this tunnel and the next. The next is that we're going to cross over the Kicking Horse River for the very last time. So this will be your last photo opportunity of the Kicking Horse River, and it's going to be best on the right-hand side as well. It's just as we go over the bridge here coming up shortly. All right, so in about 3 seconds, we're going to get that last shot of the Kicking Horse River on the right-hand side. 3, 2, 1, here where I'm standing right now. And then the last thing that's going to happen now, prior to going into the next tunnel, is that we're going to go underneath the Trans-Canada Highway. And I want you to look at the difference in the grade of the highway here at this point and the grade that we're traveling on. Because here, at this point, the Trans-Canada Highway is roughly at a 4.5% grade. So that's going to give you some idea of exactly how steep the big hill was that those trains were operating on. And just imagine a steam train chugging down that hill with the driver frantically blasting on his horn to let the rail traffic control to know that he's not in control of the brakes and to keep him on the spur line, or that he is in control and that they can put him back onto the main line, and just how crazy it was for them to operate the railway in this way for so long.
Does the highway follow the old?
So the highway does not follow the old, where a part of it does, but not entirely. Yeah, there's actually a hiking path that they've made on where the big hill used to be, and we see it very briefly prior to going into the first tunnel. But I didn't point it out. It's just a little gravel path there. So yeah, this is that 4.5% grade that you see here. And obviously cars and trucks have a much stronger braking capacity, rubber on gravel, than of course a train, metal on metal. Some of the freight trains that we have in Canada can take over a mile to come to a full and complete stop from what they call track speed, which is about 60 miles an hour. So an anecdote that I like to share about the Big Hill is about when Lady Agnes MacDonald. So she was the wife of John A. Macdonald. And if you remember, John A. Macdonald was our first Prime Minister, and it was his brainchild, it was his baby, this Canadian Pacific Railway, that he had thought of to unify Canada from coast to coast. But when they had completed the railway, him and his wife were invited with some other dignitaries and nobles to inspect some of the key points along the railway. And when they came to the Big Hill, because of course the spiral tunnels at that point had not yet been constructed, all the lords Now, as the trees clear away here, look down at the tunnel there. Do you see it? The tunnel in the valley? So that's the first tunnel we went into, and you can see the tracks crossing over it, perpendicular over the top. So that was the first tunnel that we went through at Mount Ogden. So I hope you enjoyed the world-famous spiral tunnels, one of Canada's greatest feats of engineering, and just how special it is that we're able to travel through those. And just to give you a taste of what's to come, we're now going to continue climbing. So So as I was walking through to answer your questions, I got an operational update in my ear from our train manager. And because we are an hour ahead of schedule at the moment, the luggage has arrived in Banff, but it's not necessarily been delivered to all of the hotel rooms yet. So it might be the case that some of you will reach your hotel. And this only applies to the people whose luggage was pre-delivered to their hotels. This does not apply to those who will have their luggage on the motor coaches. The luggage that is intended to go to your hotels might get there a little bit after you. It's already in Banff, they just haven't distributed it to the hotel rooms yet. So just if you could bear with them as they get that sorted out, but it should only be a very short time after you arrive at your hotel rooms, if that is the case.
Có 冇生意嘅。